Hey, what's going on? Wanted to do a video I've actually been meaning to do for a long time. As a paranormal investigator, a lot of times we get asked questions like, what got you into, or I guess, interested in doing paranormal investigations and ghost hunts, if you will. And another question we also get is, what's the most craziest thing that's ever happened to you? And I can answer those both with one answer. I can answer both those questions with one answer. As a paranormal investigator, we go to all these places that are, sometimes they say there's negative entities there. And we've been in places like that where people have said that, but we've never really had anything negative happen to us other than maybe a pebble getting thrown to us, a loud bang on command, which happened once, or getting told to F off in our EVP sessions. That's negative, but I mean, we've never had anything really negative happen, like some people claim happen, and stuff like that I believe does happen. It's just extremely rare. I've always been a big proponent of the fact that the paranormal is pretty subtle. You'll be at a paranormal location, and a lot of times we'll go home from these places thinking we captured nothing. We didn't have any personal experiences, but our audio recorders, when we review them, we find out actually there was something going on. We capture this anomalous audio that we call electronic voice phenomenon, also aka EVPs. So I'm a skeptic, and what happened to me when I was like 14 or 15, I know I couldn't drive yet, but what happened to me and three friends back during that summer is just like, it's something that, as a rational, skeptical, analytical, more logical person sometimes, I still struggle to believe that this stuff happened. Now, I realize I'm being long-winded, but if you Google search something called Zozo, Z-O-Z-O, that's what I believe we were contacting with a Ouija board when we were, in our young teens, mid-teens. Again, it's something where if that never happened to me, and if somebody started talking about Zozo, just me being judgmental, I'd be thinking in the back of my head, this person's nuts. Number two, if that never happened to me, I would not be doing paranormal investigations. I've told all the people in my group and other people face to face that I'm not a big fan of Ouija boards. There's many theories on Ouija boards. Sometimes one is that it's our subconscious doing something called, I may mispronounce this, ideomotor effect, where basically subconsciously we're moving it with minimal or, and I might be butchering this definition, so apologies if so, but we are moving the pointer with subconscious hand movements. That's one theory. And I think that's true sometimes. I think, sometimes people, I can't say it's true or not true, but it seems logical to me that could be happening. Kind of like dowsing rods, which, no offense to anybody, I'm not a big fan of. But another one is that somebody's just moving it. And that happens too, of course. And then I think sometimes you're really just communicating with the unknown. And as simply as I can put it is, it's the unknown. Most of what I know about Zozo is the very little information I read online and what happened to me like 23, 24, 25 years ago or whatever. So because of that, I'm going off personal experience, not what some documentation online may say. This is what happened to me and three friends. But Zozo, to the best of my knowledge, is considered, I want to say, a demon. And again, I'm not a huge believer in demons because I'm not very religious. If anything, I've always said I'm agnostic, borderline atheist, or a pantheist. Some weird mixture of that. Ultimately, I think our brains aren't cognizant or cognitively capable of I'm drawing a blank for the right word, of processing or believing, processing maybe of the infinite, which is what a god would be, infinite to my knowledge. But that's what people say Zozo is, that he's a demon. I don't know what he or it is, but I will tell you it is powerful. There have been stories of Zozo for a long time. It's not like, that's what really, when I first read about Zozo, and then I started thinking back, because, when I was 13 or 14 or 15, whatever it was, I was like, this was like 1994. The internet wasn't huge back then. It might have been around, it might have been whatever it was, ARPANET, or I think that's what it was at one time. But the internet in 1994 was not what it is in 2018. going online to research things back then, you know, you couldn't just do it from some device in your pocket, possibly out in the field in the middle of nowhere. You know, you had to really make an effort to do research on the internet back then. So we didn't even know what Zozo was. But I'm a firm believer that's what we were in contact with for a few reasons. And I realize I always make my videos long, and I'd like to do them in 5 minutes, but when I talk paranormal, photography, and a few other subjects, I can talk in depth, and it's very hard for me to be concise. But a few of Zozo's calling cards, from what I've been told, is number one, the pointer going in a figure eight, just, you know, boom, boom, boom. That was happening to us a ton. And you know, when we first started using the Ouija board, it was very docile, for a lack of a better word, non-threatening, friendly, I guess. But you know, eventually as time progressed, things got a lot more intense. But when it first started, you know, and it's like also when you're 15 or 14, you know, most of the time I feel like you don't get scared as easily as a kid as an adult. Now, of course, there's the opposite too. But I feel like kids are more risky than adults are normally. But we had that happen, and also a lot of times we would say, tell us your name, and it would go Z-O, Z-O. Well, one of my friends, I'll leave his name out, all their names out. I'll just do their first initial. His initial was A, there was a J, and there was a R, and then me. It was all four of us most of the time. Not all the time. Sometimes it was two of us, sometimes it was three of us, sometimes it was four of us. But A was a big fan of Led Zeppelin. And one of Led Zeppelin's symbols is Zoso, Z-O-S-O. So we thought it was A, maybe misspelling it or something, because we were thinking Z-O-Z-O, but it was supposed to say Z-O-S-O. And keep in mind, back then, when you're using the Ouija board, we had no clue what Zozo was. But that's, again, you know, I'll keep coming back to, I'm firmly in belief that that's what we contacted with. And I'll also get into my skeptical mindset on like how this could happen, or how, you know, like, I don't know how to say it, but as a skeptic, I totally understand people's disbelief in Ouija boards and things like that. And I'll just say this now, it's so hard for me, and I haven't looked in years, so they're probably out there, but if you go on YouTube to find convincing Ouija board sessions on YouTube, you know, it's like, they're probably out there, and I just haven't done my research, which I'll admit. But back when I did check a long time ago, I wasn't finding anything credible. And it leads me to one of my theories that for some reason, it's much harder to record video in the paranormal than it is in audio. We get tons of EVPs. We're very lucky as a group to get as many EVPs as we do. But capturing video, it's almost like whatever the paranormal or spirits, if that's what they are, whatever they are, it's almost like, you know, if they're intelligent, which spirits can be, there's residual and intelligent, you know, and all that, but it's almost like they don't want to get recorded for whatever weird reason that we may not know, because if we had a video camera recording what was happening to us when we were using the Ouija board, the most intense thing that happened to us, I mean, the film would be studied, and we would at least be, I don't know, well known, if that's what it is. I mean, I've got probably like 15 subscribers on my YouTube channel. I never advertise it. It's kind of a word of mouth thing, you know, and I make no money doing the paranormal, so I have no reason to document this outrageous and outlandish story that I'm just about to get into, I promise. But we had so many crazy things happen with that board. At first it started with things like that. Then it would start telling us things like that it shouldn't have known, that only I would know, or only Andy. Okay, well, there's his name. Only Andy would know, and it's not a big deal if I say their names, I guess. But that was, you know, when it started to get a little more real. Because at first it's like, you know, are you moving this? And Andy claimed he was moving it, but there are things we saw that there's just no physical way that these could happen. Trying to think of the other things, you know, so that happened, and then it slowly progressed to where it was getting much more intense. To where it's violating my principle of the paranormal is very subtle. The exception is that every once in a while it's very intense, and that's what it was there. After that, you know, things started to get where it would say it was racist, things like that. One of the people in our group was African American. there were times we would say, give us a sign you're here, and we would use this in a friend's attic above their garage, and we had a aluminum type ladder going up into the garage, and we'd say, give us a sign you're here, and we would hear a clink, clink, clink. I mean, that happened a few times. We would say another time, give us a sign you're here, and we would have candles going up in the attic, and it could have been the wind blowing it out, but we'd say, give us a sign you're here, and the candles would blow out, and it could have been a breeze. Me being the skeptical minded person I am, it would make more sense that it's a breeze than a freaking demon. I get that, but everything else that happened before and after that, it wouldn't surprise me if that was whatever it was there announcing its presence. There were times we'd be up there saying, give us a sign you're here, and a set of golf clubs in the garage would fall over. One time we brought the board and the pointer, I think we called it the Oracle, but we brought the pointer down, put the board back and the Oracle back in the box, went outside to play wiffle ball like most teenage kids in the heartland Midwest would do, and nobody else we remembered, because we were intelligent enough to try and debunk it, and as far as we could tell, nobody else went in that garage. But when we came back in the garage after playing with the Ouija board was outside of the box and the pointer was on top of it. Just crazy things like that, and it gets crazier. I don't know, my camera's not good enough, but I get goosebumps just retelling this story, because some of the next stuff that happened was really, really intense. Trying to think, I can think of two other major things that happened, and they're pretty intense. The first most major thing, I guess, was, it was my board. My parents, I think, bought it for me. It's like, hey, here's this gift that, might be able to summon demons. Oh, thanks, Mom. So I was using the board, and it might have just been three of us. Jay might not have been there. And the board kept saying it wanted me to hug it. And either me or somebody else kept asking, why? And it would say, I love you, you're my master. And thankfully, I wasn't naive enough to do that. And again, I'm not a huge believer in possession. If you watch Ghost Adventures, Zach Bagans gets possessed every episode, and in our paranormal group, I always rip on him for that, because I find it incredibly unbelievable. But I guess possession's possible, and whatever was there, maybe it wanted me to hug it, and that would have been a way for it to possess me. I have no idea what its motives were, but it kept asking me to hug the board. And at that time, that's where that childlike barrier between being scared and fearful, that's where I passed that. And I was like, I'm not doing that, I'm leaving. I climbed down the ladder. My friend had dogs, and the dog never barked at me before or after that. I'll swear on my soul, to the best of my knowledge, it never barked at me. It wasn't a dog that barked at people as far as I could remember. Maybe I'm wrong on that, but I don't recall it ever barking at me before or after that. So I'm climbing down the ladder, and this dog's barking at me, but its snout and direction was above me. And I'm still freaked out, so I'm leaving the board there, I'm leaving the other people up there, and I start walking down the driveway, and the dog had an electric fence, and the dog followed me down the driveway, barking at something above my head, and then the electric fence prevented it from following me anymore. I went home. That was pretty intense, I'm not gonna lie. The dog acting like it was sensing something above me, and a lot of people are believers that dogs can sense things humans can't, and that leads me to this whole Zozo experience, or whatever we were talking with. It made me believe in the paranormal and the fact that there is more to reality than our five senses can, I guess, analyze or perceive or process, I guess is the right word. Some people think dogs can sense earthquakes or cancer or spirits, but this dog was very, very weird. The next thing that happened, in between all these events, we were using it and having weird stuff happen like that, but nothing to these degrees. So the next thing that happened that I'll never forget in my life was, it was all four of us, we were using the board, and it kept pointing back and forth towards Jay, who was African American. It keeps pointing back and forth towards him. All of our hands are on top of the pointer. Even if one of us somehow had their hands underneath the pointer, we would have, and you'll understand what I'm talking about in a second when I talk about this. Even if somebody had their hands under the pointer, in order for the pointer to do what it did, it would have taken serious physical action by somebody to where we would have noticed it, and we would have been like, dude, knock it off, don't be a douche, So it's pointing towards Justin. I'm so bad. It's pointing towards Justin, and it was saying how it was racist, flies at his forehead, perfect angle, like it was on a string, right at his forehead, flies across the attic, hits the wall, falls down. I mean, it was like on a string at like almost like a 45-degree angle. Justin dodged it. It wasn't moving too fast, but it flew across the attic. And physically, I just can't figure out I guess a valid reason why that would happen, or how that could happen, I should say. I just, if somebody was moving it, you know, we would have seen, I mean, in order for you to do that, you would have had to have thrown it like that. You can't just, there's no physical action somebody can do that's so small or minute that we wouldn't see it, yet it could yield the output of throwing this pointer across the attic. And it wasn't a small attic, you know, this was a house, a nice house. It was probably a good 15, maybe 20 feet. Maybe 10, but even so, I mean, even if it was 2 feet, but it flew across the attic, hit that. I just, you know, I'm trying to put this into words, just retelling it is just, I tell this every once in a while. That's one of the reasons why I'm doing this video. Sometimes people ask me this, and rather than me typing out 10 pages, I'm just going to force them to sit through this 30-minute video. If they really want to know the answer, that's what this video is for. But that was intense, and I don't use Ouija boards since then, and I don't know what the difference is between using a Ouija board and going to a place that may have negative entities or is claimed to and doing EVP sessions. I will say whatever we were communicating with, which seems to be Zozo, was getting stronger. If you believe in the energy theory with the paranormal, that they need energy, us using it every day for a whole summer was feeding whatever was there. And maybe it wasn't Zozo, maybe it was something acting like it, but I'm a firm believer, based off what I've read about Zozo, that this was Zozo. We, shortly thereafter, that last one, the experience of it flying across the attic, we quit using it. Some people have said this is the wrong thing to do, but again, me being more skeptical, I really want to know where they got their information on what the proper way is to ruin, destroy a Ouija board. That's actually like, you know, because I always ask for scientific answers, but in the metaphysical, it's not based off physical, and science measures the physical. So I get it in that regard. But we burnt the Ouija board, and I know some people said, "Oh, you shouldn't have done that." You know, well, I do know that I want to say two, at least one. One of them was devoutly Catholic, so they still deny it. The other one was also devoutly Christian, or at least raised Christian, and he doesn't like talking about it, but he says things did continue to happen after the Ouija board was destroyed. So, you know, that's kind of what got me into the paranormal, and the most negative thing that's ever happened to me in the paranormal. Seeing something fly across the room with no apparent physical and logical cause will change forever what you think of what reality is. I don't know what the paranormal is. I don't know what we're communicating with when we do these EVP sessions or drive across the country to go to these places that supposedly have remnants of the living or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what the paranormal is. All I know is that we get voices on our recorders, and all I know is that reality is far more infinite, I guess, than our meager 5 major senses can, process. That's my Zozo story. If you believe it, great. If it scared you, cool, because it was pretty stupid and scary stuff. If you don't believe it, I don't blame you. I almost don't either myself. It's been 25 years and it's still in my memory. The other person, Jay, moved away eventually. They just, we grew apart and they moved away. But I haven't ever talked to him since then about it. We're friends on Facebook. I should ask him sometime. But some messed up stuff. That's why I don't use Ouija boards. I think they could probably be used in places like, every once in a while. But if you're getting constant activity with one and using it a lot, I personally would be very hesitant. Like I said, I'll go to these places that supposedly have negative entities, and I'll do solo sessions by myself in the pitch black for 30 minutes to an hour, and I'll be a little unnerved, but I'll do that. But I won't use a Ouija board much ever again. And again, some of the skeptical people, my biggest thing with having trouble believing what happened to me and my friends is if these things are so legit, potentially, I think sometimes you're really talking to real things. I think sometimes people are moving it. I think sometimes it is the ideomotor effect. But you would think there'd be more video on YouTube of these crazy things happening. Although maybe what we had was like a 1 in a million, 1 in a billion type paranormal event. I don't know. But that's why when I go to these locations, I don't want to say I'm bored, because I love the history, I love the architecture, I love investigating, and I love exploring the boundaries of reality and consciousness when we do this, because that's what we're doing. But at the same time, it dulls greatly compared to what we experienced when we were younger with Zozo. So that's my thoughts on this. I could probably talk another 15 minutes and repeat myself another 15 times. If you watch this, thanks. We're going to be doing Randolph County Infirmary, I think on the 11th of August. That'll be really cool to go there. Hopefully I can get some good activity, some good drone footage, some good still photos with my camera. Wish us luck there, and if you're an investigator, have fun, and if you're not an investigator or want to be one, start your own group, join one, and just be very skeptical and be a good investigator and have fun. Thanks.